What's up? What's up, guys? Carmen Dinisco here, UIA TV. I got my man, Miss Christopher Guerrero. We got an awesome show today. Hey, Chris, listen, I'm a little nervous today. We got two seasoned professionals on that, they have their own shows. They do a lot of stuff. Plus, they know what the hell's going on with licensing, man. I don't know. I'm going to be quiet here and listen to you most of the time.
Well, this is great, right? Because we do a lot about product launching, and our goal is to educate our audience, right? And today, licensing, how many people that we come across that want to license a product? I always talk about how expensive it is to launch. It's not for everybody, but licensing is another option.
Huge.
And who better than our guests today, right? So let's bring them on. So I've got David Fedewa and Amy Jo Wagner of Invent Tribe. And that's all they do. They've been doing this forever. They're experts in the field. They know how to do it. So let's welcome them on the show.
Thank you,
Hi,
Chris.
guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So, I run into so many people who think they want to launch a product until I start talking about the dollars, right? The capital required and the amount of time required. Then I always say, well, there's options, right? You don't have to be that. You don't have to do that. It's not for everybody. Mm-hmm. And you can license your product. And then they say, okay, well, I don't even know where to start. What does that mean? So how do I even get going in licensing? So let's start there, right? Let's start at the very base level. How do you get started in licensing your product?
Okay, so licensing is amazing. Just for those who don't know what licensing is, a little bit of backstory. I'm going to make it quick because I know we're limited. Is when you get a company to take on wear all of the hats on your behalf. So you have your own idea. Sometimes you have intellectual property filed, sometimes you don't. It could be novel, could be, just kind of get out there fast and collect the check type of thing. If you have the right team behind you to be able to do that. And then they pay you a royalty rate per unit sold. So they do all the selling, the manufacturing, distribution, selling, all of that, because they already have that established. And that's what the beauty is behind licensing. Now, the first step in order to start moving forward with that, because it's not an overnight thing, it's not a get rich quick lottery ticket by any means. You still have to put legwork in it. And the first thing that you need to do is do your market research. You need to know what's already selling out there. Find products try to find your product in the marketplace. So then that way you can establish and identify what your point of difference is before you go any further, and especially spending any money whatsoever.
So Amy, I could do that, right? I can just log on my computer and start looking at Amazon and all these places where I think a product like mine is being sold.
Exactly. Yep. Okay. And what a lot of people do that whether they consciously do it or subconsciously do it, they try to work around not finding their product because they don't want to see it selling. David, you know this all too well.
Oh yeah. Well,
and that's when somebody goes and builds a prototype or something, right? And spends a ton of cash and then goes, oh my God, there's a product just like mine in the market.
There's 5 products like mine.
Chris, it's funny you say that. I had a student that actually recently signed up, and he had built, it was a $10,000 prototype. Oh. And I'm like, all right, first step is do your research. He's like, don't worry about it. I've already done it. I'm like, no, you need to do your research. And so we just went through the process of doing Google search, and he's like, it's out there. It's already being made. And he could have saved himself $10,000 by just doing appropriate Google searching.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, David, because I even find that with clients that come to me, they've spent money in areas they probably shouldn't have because they didn't know it. They didn't know better. That's why we always try to say, what we want to do is help educate the audience so that they can take the limited funds they have and put it in the right locations, right? Appropriate it correctly to, maybe you do need a prototype, but at the right time, maybe you should be spending time on intellectual property. That's another thing, right? When you license something, what are you really licensing? You're not just an idea, right? You're licensing some type of intellectual property. So talk about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. And to step back onto the funds thing, there's a lot of things you can do for free when you're getting started in this. And it's not calling companies, but doing your research. And then even doing very inexpensive things like provisional patent application. Mm-hmm. And that's how a lot of people are really getting their products licensed. I've licensed products and a filing is $70. And it's not this, $5,000 to $10,000 experience you have with an attorney and filing. It's something that you can write on your own, get it filed with the USPTO, and it's stamped patent pending for 12 months. And that gets you so that you have the ability to get into the marketplace, get in front of potential licensees, and get yeses or nos to validate if it's a product that people are willing to invest their money in. And
that's really the first step, right? Is to really look at something inexpensive. You cover yourself with a provisional, right? Yep. And okay, you may not be an expert on how to write it, right? There's like you said, there's so much free information available to help you write it. Mm-hmm. But it's like you said, it's $70 and it covers you at least, right? For a year.
And like our objective when I'm like coaching and teaching and working with somebody is like, I want you to get yeses or nos from companies for less than $100. Like you need to spend $70 on a PPA and then $30 on a prototype or marketing material or something it is that you can convey to a company. This is what my product is. Oh. And, part of that is, and I guess there's two sides of it, right? If you have a ton of cash, but not a lot of time, then, you got to pay somebody else to build the prototype. You got to, or, pay somebody else to shoot a video for you. But, most of the time when inventors are getting started out, they don't have the ton of cash. They have time and they want to work on their project. And that's where it takes a little bit of learning and a little bit of time to understand these things of how to get your product moving forward.
All right,
yeah,
cool.
And one more side note too about expenses. I've worked with a lot of people who've spent anywhere between $1,500 to $5,000 on a marketing video that's a minute long. And that is like nails on the chalkboard for me. It drives me insane. You don't have to do that. You can record and get the point across with your phone. Like, do not spend that kind of money when it comes to licensing. When it comes to marketing to the public, it's a whole different story. But licensing and submitting to companies, you don't need it. You need
down and dirty,
nice natural lighting and your phone is what you need. But to answer, Chris asked you a question about what exactly do people license? Is it the actual intellectual property or just the idea in general?
Well, so I like to put a line down the middle and say licensed products. Most licensed products are evolutionary, not revolutionary. And so to kind of put that in a perspective, like when a company is looking at a project for licensing, they're like, all right, we sell hammers and this is a new innovation to a hammer. So we know that, if we put this innovation on, we can either increase the price or grab this amount of market share. And so we would be willing to invest in this project. But when it's revolutionary, when they don't have anything to compare it to, they look at it and say, that's too big of a gamble. So we do not license typically revolutionary. So when I get inventors coming to me saying, this is revolutionary, I'm like, it might be tough to license then, even though most of the time inventors' perspective on revolutionary is really evolutionary. But for intellectual property, I'd say about 50% of the deals that I see don't have IP or can't get IP. And the other half, I'd say, well, let's put it into like a broad category, like 40% have PPAs, and then the last 10% actually have utility patents that are granted. So there's very few project or licensing deals that go through that actually have granted patents on them, because when a new technology or a new market is starting to evolve or like come to fruition into the space and consumers are starting to buy products, a product is invented and then it could take 1 to 3, 4 years to get a patent granted, and then after that, it's another 2 years to actually launch, and like it's already late in the marketplace. And so that's why most deals actually happen based on the provisional patent application or the PPA, and then or nothing at all.
Yeah, this is great information again. So we've learned early in this segment that you don't have to spend a lot of money, right, to get going and to really find out, is your product something that you want to launch? If you don't, then you're going to have to license it, and here's the path to do it. So getting started is pretty simple. It's not as complex as you said, Amy, is spending, $1,500, $5,000 on a video. Okay, cool. So just to close out this segment for the next couple of minutes, what about trade shows? How important are trade shows to get your product out? And I guess you got to be a little careful too, right? Who you're showing and what you're showing and where your protection is. But what do you guys think about that, about trade shows?
So I love trade shows, but they have to be at the right time in an inventor's journey through the process. Because you know, some people out there in the marketplace, they're like, trade shows are the only way to go. I'm like, if an inventor is so green, they don't know what they're doing, then they go into a trade show and they can't have the right conversations with people because they don't even know the industry jargon. They don't know the conversations to have. And so it's like they fly out, they spend all this money, and they're like all like, oh, this is exciting, but they didn't get the value out of it that they could have. So a lot of times I recommend to inventors, I'm like, take a product, you know, pitch it over the phone, have conversations with potential licensees, see if there's interest in your innovation. Just that one experience alone, you know, pitching one product to 10 companies kind of changes inventors' perspective on how this whole business works. And so like, I'm going to the hardware show here in 2 weeks and I'm super excited, but I have products that are in a position ready to be licensed. Like I know how to have the conversations. And so I tell every inventor, like, trade shows can be super valuable. You can do in 3 hours what you can get done in 3 months on the phone. So like inventors, they can call and email companies, but it's like at a trade show, you walk up to a booth and say, hi, I'm a product developer. Do you guys take new innovation? And they're like, here's Bob, talk to him. And they exchange business cards and it's like, boom, boom, boom. You get this stack of business cards this big. So trade shows are super valuable if you are prepared.
Yeah. And David, so we'll close the show out by just talking briefly about like the UIA, right? We have this new Habitat Inventor area. We're going to have amazing guest speakers, which are going to teach like we're doing now, live up on the stage. We're going to have multiple pitch panels from retailers to folks that want to license their product, Shark Tank panels. So we're going to have, that's what I feel like where an inventor can really get an enormous amount of free information. I mean, and educate themselves in those 2.5 days at the hardware show alone, because what we're offering is this incredible bundle of industry experts from marketing, media, retail, you know, how to get your product on Shark Tank, the do's and don'ts of the industry, how to license your product. And then we're gonna have this meet and greet each night so they can actually meet folks in a setting that's not during the show, which will be even, you know, it'll be even better to continue their conversations with their products. So that's on April 5th to 7th. If you haven't already signed up, you should go to nationalhardwareshow.com and you can go obviously to the UIA website and become a member. So I'll hand it over to you, Carmine. I think we got a lot of good information in this small window today.
Man, the hardware show thing sounds great, Chris. I think I'm going to go.
Yeah, you better be there.
Man, it sounds awesome. Can't wait to talk to all these speakers. They sound awesome. So
Yeah.
Great stuff. Hardware show is going to be a super big hit this year. We got, I think almost all the booths are already sold. I checked, you know, a few weeks ago, we had some open booths. I took a look. I think you sent me the link and there was only a few open booths left. So we're going to have a packed house at the hardware show, but we're going to other events. So I want all our listeners to know that. Make sure you become a UIA member. It is free. So you keep you up to date with all the upcoming things going on, especially something like this show. I mean, Dave and Amy, I mean, this is awesome information. We're going to have some more shows with you guys. I appreciate you coming on today. Just getting people started with licensing is so important. What I hear you guys saying is, you know, get started in the right sequence. I want people before they do anything to contact David or Amy, because, you know, you don't want to spend their money in the wrong sequence. And then when you talk to them, you might be able to say, oh my God, I already spent all that money. But if you can get started with these guys early, get in the right sequence, I think they can get you on track a lot quicker. It'd be a lot sooner, a lot better for everyone. So again, myself, Carmen Danisco, for Mr. David Fedewa, Amy Jo Wagner, and the great Christopher Guerrero, we thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time. UIA TV. You all take care.